hello, everybody. Welcome to the practice of being human, and welcome to today's episode on the ego. It'll be unique because I'm going to do so from a vantage point that I've never really taken before, and it's in light of a conversation I heard between two women that I highly respect. There's a moment in every human life where the story we've been living in starts to crumble. And the identity that once felt safe, maybe as the helper, the healer, the one who knows, or the one who's been wronged, begins to feel heavy. And we can't quite keep the mask on. And underneath it all, there's this ache, this whisper. Who am I without this story? Today, we're going to be exploring the conversation between two women who have profoundly shaped my own inner landscape and the work that I do with my clients. And this is Byron Katie and Kelly Brogan. Together, they invite us to look deeply at the ego, not as an enemy to destroy, but as a frightened child seeking safety. Think of the ego as a terrified child. Their exchange is one of the most lucid, compassionate explorations of awakening from victim consciousness that I think I've ever heard. So that is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. Kelly begins their exchange naming something that we all know intimately. And she was talking about victim consciousness, the belief that life is happening to us. This is at the root of so much of our own suffering. It gives us belonging through blame, a sense of power through righteousness, and identity through pain. Byron Katie answers her sharing with the lived truth of her own annihilation. She tells the story of the day that her ego died, meaning it was a collapse so total that the mind that once screamed, something's wrong with me and it's your fault, simply couldn't go on. And her simplicity here is this: when I believed my thoughts, I suffered. When I questioned them, I didn't. And in that moment, Byron says that she saw the cause of all suffering. Believing uninvestigated thoughts, that is the root of our suffering. The ego's grip can loosen, and something vaster, quieter, and infinitely kinder can take its place. And this is where the work was born. 4 simple questions that turn the mind from war to wonder. I have shared Byron's wisdom with you guys in past episodes, but here we are again, talking about the ego as a terrified child with so much love. Byron describes the ego not as an enemy to kill, but as a terrified child fighting for its life. The ego identifies as the body. It thinks, if the body dies, I die. So what does the ego do? It clings, it defends, it blames. It finds reasons to justify its existence, and it controls. Not because it's evil, but because it's scared. That in itself, I think, can change a whole lot of how we engage with ourselves, with our stories, with our lives. Byron says that defense is the first act of war, and it's always a war against the self. So when we meet this part of ourselves with gentleness, curiosity, expansion, when we move the thought from our head to paper, when we look at it directly instead of running from it, it begins to soften. It begins to trust that we're not trying to kill it, right? That's when the mind and heart can become one. Mind and heart. I like to say body, mind, spirit, all one, right? We are not separate. We are not a brain in a jar. We are a body, mind, and our bodies and our minds are so interconnected. The more we understand this, the more we can hold space for this in a way to say, I want to get to know this ego. I want to understand its stories. I want to hold that terrified child and get to know him or her. This is when we can start to inform the ego and the ego stories with our hearts, right? We're not trying to get rid of the ego, we're just trying to inform it from a kinder, softer, more humane place. And that, when our mind and heart become one, this ends the duality, this ends the war. So then they moved into, in the conversation, the two gals were talking about the radical responsibility of love. And Kelly brought this inquiry into the realm of relationship and activism because she was admitting that even in her righteous health advocacy, so she was strongly in that fight for a long time, her crusades to help others see the truth, what was really alive underneath this drive for people to see the truth was fear. Fear of loss, fear of being powerless, fear disguised as certainty. And through inquiry, Byron's inquiry, I think, right? She's learned, as she said, she was starstruck by Byron, and she's normally not starstruck. And I thought, amen to that. There are few of these Byron Katie's in the world. They are, I believe, our modern day Buddhas. And I think Kelly is in line for becoming that. But anyway, so through the inquiry, she saw the ways her ego used superiority and conviction as shields from vulnerability. We do this all the time, right? We act like we know. The brain loves certainty, doesn't like uncertainty, and it likes to know who's with me, who's against me, right? Again, storytelling at its finest. We get really good at getting very clear on the story, and we tend to go binary, good, bad, right, wrong. But that doesn't hold space for what it is to be human. So I can't possibly know what's best for someone else, is what Kelly came to. And I think that is such a powerful realization. This is big for me as a mom. I cannot possibly know what's best for someone else. When I held that belief, but also when I've been open to what that would mean, that doesn't mean that I step out of what I believe it is to be the mom to marvelous, messy, under construction human pieces of God of my four kids, right? Ellie, Ben, Leo, Mora, love them. But I can't possibly know what's best for them. I really can't. All I can do is love them. And that, super clarifying, also a little terrifying, but not in the way that control is. It's more of trust and surrender. And if love is driving the bus and not fear, I'm a fully different mom with my kids. So I loved what Kelly was talking about of like, I can't possibly know what's best for someone else. And that includes our partners, that includes the person at the grocery store, that includes pretty much anyone and everyone. And when we can step into that and then remember what is our role, what is our job, what is our calling, but to love, that just, it's like, okay, let's go, game on. Then Kelly gave this example to Byron about, let's say my father is dying of cancer. My job is to love him. That's the greatest power. It's not to tell him what he has to do and how he needs to do it and what treatment to take. Instead, what she's saying and what Byron responded to was, your job isn't to tell him what to do. Your job is to love him. That's the greatest power. You can present to him what you think he might consider doing for treatment, but ultimately that's his decision. Don't make it about you. And I think that's true for us in partnership as much as it's true for us as parents and friends, all of it. So what Byron Katie basically continues to, and really points all of us to, which is so profound, is the shift from control to love. It's the trust and the surrender. It's the letting go and letting be and loving what is. From needing others to change so we can feel safe to knowing that peace begins and ends with us. So, as their conversation continued, Kelly was laughing because she imagines that here's Byron Katie probably floating through life, maybe frolicking in the daisies, as she said. Katie responded with the wisdom of presence, as she always does. She said, "It's like a walk through the kitchen." So even though Kelly was thinking she's probably just floating through life, frolicking through daisies, Katie's response was basically from the wisdoms of presence. Like whether it's in a field of daisies or it's in, walking through her own kitchen, there is still the wisdom of presence. And she gave this example of like when her husband leaves a cup on the counter, this is for Byron Katie, she doesn't tell the story, he should have picked it up. What's the story she tells? She just simply picks up the cup because she's the one who wants it done. How many of us are in active war with someone and being like, put that cup in the sink? And they're like, okay. And they might do it. But if that cup in the sink isn't important to them, but it is to us, why don't we just grab the cup and put it in the sink kind of thing, right? It's just this realization of, oh, right, when our kids leave their laundry in the dryer, and we want to move laundry through, do we go completely crazy on them and say, get your laundry out of the dryer? Or is it like, you know what? I can take their laundry out of the dryer, no big deal. And if I want to fold it, I can do so, or I can put it in their room, in the basket, whatever it is. I'm not at the whim of my kids and I'm not at war with them. And if I want something done, I will do it. Such a cool way of doing life. The cup on the counter, just simply pick it up because you're the one that wants it done. There's no resentment, there's no scoreboard, there's no war. I mean, who doesn't want to do more of life like that? This is the invitation of their conversation, which is that enlightenment is not somewhere out there. It's here in how we pick up the cup, how we listen to our children, how we presence ourselves, and how we meet our own minds, with honesty, transparency, curiosity, kindness, love, forgiveness, examination. It's really the quiet joy of living without an argument with reality. So, my friends, in the end, what both Byron, Katie, and Kelly remind us is that awakening isn't about escaping the human experience. It's about meeting it without defense. It's not the absence of ego, it's the integration of it. It's seeing the terrified child, and we all have that scared little girl or little boy in us, and saying to them, sweetheart, is it true? Because that's how Byron Katie talks. She'll say, sweetheart, is that true? So consider for yourself when that scared little child is just wanting attention to say, hey, sweetheart, is it true? What do you need? I'm listening. I'm right here. What do you got? And when the mind no longer argues with reality, what's left is peace. And not the peace that floats above life, but the kind that lives inside us. And that could be carrying water, could be picking up the socks, chopping wood, whatever it may be, picking up the cup. So maybe this week, as you go about your day, notice where you defend, where you're trying to prove, or you're blaming or shaming. Take a pause. Write it down. Speak it out loud. Ask, is it true? And meet whatever you come up with. Meet whatever you find with love. Because that, my friends, is the practice of being human. So more to come from a Kelly and a Byron along the way. And may you, each and every one of you, come from love for yourselves and for one another. I will see you here next week. So much love.